Hello everyone, and welcome to Judy's Creations in Crochet. Today is November the 28th, 2024, and I want to start by wishing all of my American viewers and friends happy Thanksgiving. I strongly suspect you're not watching me on Thanksgiving Day, as you're probably too busy with friends and family and preparing that great, wonderful meal you're going to have sometime today. But whenever you watch this video, I hope it was a great day. I'm coming to you from Chatham, Ontario, which is the southernmost tip of Canada. And I am all about crochet, of course, and I talk about things related to crochet, and I also like to spend a bit of time talking about yarn, particularly yarn that is hand-dyed. I love hand-dyed yarn, and I discovered it a few years ago, and I found that that's what I want to concentrate on. So I talk about it on my channel. I have a little girl here kind of snooping at yarn. She doesn't very often come down and visit me. We'll see if she comes over and wants to be picked up. Anyhow, nope, she's going to run away. And if you've watched me any length of time, you know that I try to buy all of my hand-dyed yarn within Canada, just because I like to support Canadians, but also because the exchange rate has gotten even worse. It was around 40% for quite a while. It's up now, I think, awful close to 45%. I hope this doesn't stay this way. I hope it changes someday soon. But given the changes that are happening in the US, I strongly doubt that it'll get any better. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about political things. I'm here to talk about our favorite subject, yarn, and what we can do with it. And I know I have many knitters out there that watch me as well, and I welcome you all. It is getting awful close to Christmas, so you'll notice I tried to get in the Christmas spirit today. I have my Christmas trees on, and I am going to be wearing red mostly, or red and green, for the next month, because it's less than a month, 4 weeks, actually 4 weeks from today, but you'll see this tomorrow. 4 weeks till Christmas. It'll be here before we know it. And that means we'll be looking at advent calendars, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. But before I do, we'll start with the usual, what am I wearing? And then I'll talk about things that I have made and whips. So I am wearing this infinity scarf cowl, and it is very basic. It is just double crochets, chain one, skip one, and the whole thing is made that way. And I believe it was made in one solid piece as far as the skein would go, and then it was seamed up, and I think there's the seam right there. I don't know the pattern, whether I made it up or followed a pattern, I don't know. And I do know the yarn, though. The yarn is pearlescent worsted from EFA. And you'll hear me talk about, for those that are new, you'll hear me talk about EFA, which stands for Expression Fiber Arts. You'll hear me talk about them a lot. And in fact, I even have an acquisition from them that I will show towards the end of the video. And yes, they are US. They're in North Carolina, and they're the only place I buy from in the US. And half of the year I get it shipped to me, and the other half of the year I get it shipped to my brother in Florida to save me the shipping. But I have backed off on the amount of buying I'm doing because I have more yarn than I can possibly use. And when I was going through my yarn stash to get ready for next year's MAL, and more about that later, I discovered so much yarn that I have and I love and I want to use. And how will I ever get to it all? But just so you know, this is an EFA storage unit behind me. It's all EFA and there's overflow. So that was pearlescent worsted. So finished object. The first, I have one, actually I had two. I think I finished it at the beginning of this week, was my item for the MAL, which you'll see on Sunday. And then I was working on last week and I finished it during the week. Kind of an interesting story. But I finished one shawl, and it's a shawl pattern that I make frequently. I really like this pattern. I will link it down below, and it is Granny meets Virus. Some people say Virus meets Granny. I don't know which one Craig uses. I followed the pattern from Craig at Fiber Spider, and I'll link his video tutorial down below. And I used this yarn. It comes from Tessiland, Tessiland, and it is called, I'll bring it up close here. Tessiland, see it there? This is called Herman, I think. Yeah, Herman. And you can see what it looks like. It has glitter. I used some of this ball, some of this cake. I took the label off and wound it tighter around after I finished using it so it would stay nice and neat. Probably enough I could make a nice scarf out of it. And maybe what, excuse me, maybe one day I will. I have leftovers building up and enough to make scarves in quite a few of these things. And one day I'll get around to doing that. Now this has 10% wool, 40% cotton, 20% acrylic, and 30%, I guess that has to stand for, it's all in another language, polyester, I have to guess that is. There's 150 grams and 410 meters in this. So 410 meters means about 450 yards. And I didn't measure this to see how much I had left over. It is, it meets the criteria for OEKO-TEX. And that's all I can tell you about it. Tessiland, I believe, if I recall correctly, is in Bulgaria. And I made a sizable order from them way back, probably in 21. And if you go to my earliest videos, you'll see where I do an acquisition. I do one on the one from South Africa. I do one on Tessiland. And I do another one. I think there were 3 different companies from overseas that I did an acquisition video on each one separately. So you'll find out more about the company if you want to look it up back in the fall of 21. So that's the first item I made. And I want to tell you what happened. I decided to start an item from EFA. They had a pattern I really liked. And I also wanted to participate in Kathy from Yarn with Heart. I wanted to participate in her MAL for the month. And her MAL is doing something you've never done before. And when I saw this pattern from EFA, which I really liked, and it was a corner to corner wrap. They call it a shawl. I call it a wrap because it ends up being rectangular, a large rectangular shape, and we've got the yarn all tangled there. And I have never, believe it or not, I have never done a corner to corner, mostly because I really had no interest in doing a corner to corner. But I thought, well, this looks a little different because it is corner to corner, but it also has lace or open work in it as well. So you can see it's going to be fairly wide. And I know before I even do it that this is going to block out quite a bit. It's going to be even larger than this. So it's larger than I would have wanted it to be. And it is made with EFA's yarn, pearlescent fingering. Expression Fiber Arts. Is that upside down? Yeah, that's helpful, isn't it? Expression Fiber Arts in the color Amphitrite, and it's 50% merino and 50% silk. And I've always loved this yarn. I have one whole bin full of this yarn, probably more than that. But then I started experimenting with all their other yarns and I got sidetracked. I still really like it. It is very silky. You can see it has a halo. And it's soft. And I think this has 550 yards, 500 meters, 550 yards. That's quite a bit. That's good value. And I do like it, but I forgot how slippery it is. And I was using my Leto hook. I think I showed you them last couple weeks ago. I really like my Leto hooks, but they are slipperier than any other hook. So I had to switch, and I switched to a Furls hook. And I am using, I believe it's a 4.5. It says even bigger, but I'm a loose crocheter. I did not need this to be any bigger than it already is. Now you can see I have gone this far on the top. I hope this is going to block out. I don't know if that's because I did something tighter there or why it's pulling, but anyhow. I've gone a fair ways, but I still have this much of one cake left. So you can, it's not supposed to use 2 full cakes because these are bigger cakes, but it's supposed to use 900 and something yards, close to 1,000. I have 1,100. So this is going to be big. And I have a feeling when I get into the second cake, I will end it sooner than they say. Right now, I'm on row, I think it was 57 that I marked off last night. And it actually has 134 rows in it. So it's going to be really long. I mean, if that's half of it, which it isn't, this will be way more than my wingspan and way bigger than I want, and that's without blocking. So you know I'm going to be cutting it short. But anyway, I started on this thinking I'll get this done this month, and then I'll move on to using the red yarn I showed you last week. And thanks for the suggestions. I'd be happy to hear more. I haven't 100% made up my mind yet. I got going on this, and I'm here to tell you that I believe corner to corner is one of the most boring patterns I've ever done. I suppose people could tell me the moss stitch is boring too, and it is, but for some reason I like it. This one, I'm not sure I'll ever do another corner to corner item. And the other thing is there are a lot of slip stitches. Every square you have to slip stitch to the next square. And with slippery yarn, that's a pain in the neck. I find this yarn is slipping off my hook constantly, and I'm having to pick up my stitch and do it again. So I'll be very glad when this is done. And because I got bored with it, I decided, you know what? This doesn't have to be done anytime soon. Kathy will take a picture of whatever I have done. I'm going to pick up another project and I'll work on it, and then I'll come back and do a little on this and then back and forth. And you know, that's not typical of me. I'm what they call monogamous to my project, and I do one and I finish it, but I decided I would go back and forth. So I picked this one up and did a little, and then I put it down and went back to this. And I had to take Rose to a doctor's appointment, so I was able to take this with me and work on it a little bit. And then I went back to this, but then I finally said, you know, I'm close to the end. I'm going to finish this. So I finished it. That's why I have one finished object and one that isn't even supposedly half done, but I think it's half done in my book. We'll see. So that's what I am working on, but I'm also looking at patterns to work on with Advent patterns, to use Advent calendars. And I think I might get started on one real soon. Although, as you know, already I have a busy schedule of taping coming up. Already this Sunday is the 1st of December, and I'll be doing the Mal video with all of your finished projects on Sunday, and I'll be showing you the yarn for the coming month, not the yarn, I'll be showing you the tropical bird for the coming month, and I probably will get started right away on that. Although I really did want to, and I really did want to start on this and get it finished before, well, I won't get it finished before December starts, but maybe I could get it finished if I started right away by early December. So I would be able to wear whatever I make with this sometime during the month on one of my podcasts, because I'm going to try and wear Christmassy things for all of the Advent season. So that's what I finished. That's what I'm working on. And I don't think I'll be back with a finished object in a week. But now that I've brought up Advent calendars, let's talk about Advent. First of all, I told you I received my Advent quite a while ago, probably the end of October, from Polka Dot Creek, and I had to give it to Bonnie, and Bonnie put it in the boxes, and I showed you all of the little Christmas boxes. Was that last week or the week before? I forget. I also, hang on, I have a very dry throat. I also ordered an Advent from the Green Button Jar, and they are in Windsor. And when our postal strike hit, for those of you not in Canada who are not aware, we have a postal strike right now. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. But she then decided to use UPS to send it. Now, she's only an hour away from me, but she sent it by UPS, and I got it within several days. And I'm going to show a couple of pictures up here. The first picture is when I opened the box. This is what you can see. And then I knew I wouldn't be able to pick it up and show you. I'd have things falling out all over. And next, you can see that when I opened up the tissue paper, you can see underneath all the individual little packages with their little seal on them and numbered, and they're in 2 big cellophane bags and a few little goodies around. And you can see, and I didn't remember this, but there also is one large hank for the 25th day. and I'm guessing it's a hank that kind of coordinates with everything in the package. And it is called Merry Christmas. I'm thinking it's on a Christmas theme of colors. So that's the second one I had ordered. I had actually ordered 3 for Christmas. And the third one was from Ba Realis. And you may or may not remember, those that have been around a while, that I ordered an advent calendar from Ba Realis last year. And it is the one that they were all sparkle. And I really, really enjoyed them. I hadn't figured out what to make with them. I got advents from 2 years ago that I haven't figured out what I'm going to make with them. So this year, Ba Realis decided to do the same thing she did last year, and you had the same choices, so I could choose sparkle, but they will not be the same colors. And I decided at that point that I would order the same thing as last year and get another advent calendar of all sparkles, and that I would then use the sparkles from both years and make a blanket. Now, my first inclination was to make hexagons and put them all together. But I also saw another blanket, which I will be able to show you in a little bit when I get to the next topic. And I'm thinking, do I want to do that one instead? But I will have 48 colors. I'll be able to make lots of squares. The second one is squares or hexagons, and probably have something left over from all of them. So that's why I got a second box of sparkle ones to make a good size blanket or throw. Well, she didn't send it out right away with the others because I asked about getting a silvery gray to go with them in the sparkle, so I'd have a way to attach them all with a neutral color. And she specially dyed up some skeins for me and put them in the same box, which meant they left a week later. I think they left 10 days later, actually, but doesn't matter. But she mailed them. And then later that week, we went on strike here. The post office has gone on strike. Who knows how long it will last? The last time we had a postal strike was in 2018, and it lasted 35 days. And after that, the government stepped in and mandated them back to work. So if that follows the same pattern, it's going to be after Christmas before anything happens. They are negotiating. They have a mediator. I don't think there's a lot of movement on either part, but who knows how long that will last. And because of that, I don't have my third Advent, and I know I won't have it in time for Christmas. But I have an alternate plan. I also ordered a small mini set with just 12 skeins to open in July. As you know, I always do Christmas in July, and I don't buy a full one. I try to buy a smaller one of 12. Well, I think when I get this, and it'll be January, I'm sure, before I get the Ba Realis one. I'm not going to be opening Advents in the spring or the winter. I thought, well, how about I switch them? So let's see if I can show you this. I decided the other day that I will save my Ba Realis for July, which will give me a big one in July. I'm also doing an exchange with Diane and Kathy, and I'll talk about that much later. But that I would open this one, and it is Chickadee Fiber Arts And I think I can open it and show it to you. It comes, probably an explanation, and these little wooden birds, and it's got tea, and then all of the yarns are wrapped up under the tissue. So I'll wait till the first day to open the tissue and see what's inside there. But I do know that they are wrapped. There's a lot of tissue there, but they are wrapped in Christmas tissue. I see green and white poking through there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open the two that arrived, and this one actually arrived first, which was the one I wasn't going to do, but I am going to do it now. Okay, so that's the plan for Christmas. I might as well put the tea up there. And I am going to do the same thing I did last year. I felt that it worked quite well. People were happy with it. It doesn't overdo it, but if I wait till do it once a week, I would be opening, like, I don't know, well, if I'd had 3 of them, I would have been opening 20 some every week. And I thought, that doesn't sound like fun to me. So I am going to do what I did last year, and that is I am going to call it the 12 Days of Christmas again. And I am going to open it every other day, starting on the 2nd, because we have our big, just checking that. We have our big slideshow on the 1st of December, and I'm going to talk about changing that for next year, but we'll talk about that on the 1st. So on the 2nd, and I'll come to you the 2nd, the 4th, the 6th, every other day up until the 24th for 12 days of Christmas, and I will open 2 days from each of the 2 that have 24, and I'll open 1 day from the one that has 12. So we'll be opening 5 little packages every day for the 12 days of Christmas up until Christmas. Now, 2 of them have an extra skein of yarn for the 25th. Plus, I did an exchange again and have another one. But I believe I'm going to open them on the 26th. The 26th is a Thursday, a usual day for me to come to you anyway. And so I'll open those larger skeins on that day. And yeah, I think that will be a good way to handle it. And it should be, I should be able to manage it, because I can tell you right now that I sit down, and they are shorter videos because they're every other day, and I do 2 or 3 at a time. So on one day I might sit down and tape 3, and then I can wait several days, almost a week, and tape 2 or 3 more and keep up with it that way. So that should work fine. So I have boards ready to go that I'll pin them on as we're opening them up. And I think that's going to work fine. So that's what I wanted to tell you about our Advent plans. And one other thing I want to tell you about Advent. And this is where I'm going to show you that one Advent picture. I have linked below, and I have had it on every one of my videos, but you want to pay particular notice to it now. I have linked 2 links to Ravelry bundles, and one is just a link to minis, and they are minis for crocheted patterns. There are 145 patterns there that would work with Advent calendars, and those of you that don't buy Advent calendars probably have lots of leftover scraps. So they're good for scrappy projects as well, some better than others. But that saves you looking for things. There they are. But the second link is I happened, as I was doing my search, to find knitted ones. And then I come across a YouTuber that, in fact, more than one, that were showing Advent patterns, and they have both crochet and knit, and one had predominantly knit as she was a knitter. So there is a second one, and again, I don't have everything out there, but it has a bundle of 105 knit patterns that you could make with advent calendars or with scraps. And I thought these two were particularly cute. There is one that I'm going to put the picture up here. I know the crochet one is for little crocheted stockings, one for each day, and they're all in one color. But I mean, if you have an advent or scraps, you could do them in different colors. And there is one for knit, and I'm going by memory. I didn't look at it lately. Is it hats or is it stockings as well? But I'm going to show both of those up there, one from the crochet and one from the knit. And that's just one of, like I said, more than 100 in both files. So please check them out to help you find patterns for your scrappies or your mini skeins. You may have mini skeins that you've just gathered that you've got a bunch of. And finally, I'm going to put up this pattern because I want to make a point. And this pattern is one of the two patterns I'm considering using for my Sparkle mini sets. And what I particularly want to draw your attention to is you will see on the far right side of the picture, and that's what a listing looks like when you pull up a pattern. You will see I have circled where it says projects. And I want to encourage you, not just for your advents, but whenever you do a project that uses a pattern on Ravelry, even if you didn't buy it on Ravelry, even if you went to the designer's website and used the free pattern on their blog, I would really, really encourage you to go back, and you can use that projects to check out what other people have done. But just above it, you'll see where it says create a project page, create a project. Click that on and fill out the information about the projects and put pictures of your finished project. And the reason I encourage you to do that is, first of all, I think if there's more there, it encourages other people to do the pattern. But from my point of view, when I look at a project and I'm trying to decide about it, and the designer has their pictures, they often do these really nice, but I like to see the project spread out. I like to see what it looks in other colors. I like to see in other combinations. For instance, I saw one pattern the other day that the designer did it, I think, in 2 colors alternating throughout. But somebody else did it in a multitude of colors and had one that was a base color they put every so often. It was a pattern I want to do, and it's a pattern that could be done in different ways. And I'm enticed to do that pattern a couple of times, do it in a solid color. So I really want to encourage you to put your finished project on the pages so that other people can see what you've done, and it helps other people decide, do I like that pattern or not? Sometimes you don't want to do a pattern because you look at it and you absolutely don't like those colors and you're turned off and you don't do it and you pass it by. But if you happen to go look at projects and it's done in another color and it's stunning, then you're more encouraged to do that pattern, and you have a better feel for what it will look like when you're working on it. And I've seen some I've seen some patterns that didn't encourage me all that much, but then when I looked at the projects, I saw some stunning versions that really, really encouraged me to do that project. So I'm just putting that out there. Please consider entering yours on the project pages. All right, so that's enough about advent calendars and so on and so forth. The other thing I want to touch on very quickly is I mentioned that I keep track of what I do in an app. I keep track of my Ravelry patterns in Ravelry projects. I can go to the project page and see all the things that I have made and what colors I used and who the designer is and so on and so forth. But I make a lot of things that aren't Ravelry as well. And I wanted to use an app because in Ravelry, yes, I suppose there are ways that I can figure out what I did, what year, so on and so forth. But I wanted an app that would really, really be helpful for me to keep track of things in a way that I want to organize and keep track of things. And people ask me to please tell them what app I used. And okay, so I just blew that. I hit something I shouldn't have. All photos. Okay. So I'm going to do just a couple minutes on sharing with you the app that I use. If I can find it. After you hit buttons, everything goes somewhere else. Just hang on a minute. Oh, here it is. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to show you the app I use. Now, keep in mind, I'm doing this on an iPad, so it is in the Apple App Store. I don't know what would be in the Google Store. Do they have this same one? It's called Pocket Crochet, and I'm going to put a picture up here of what you see in the App Store. That's the app I use. Now, when you have things recorded in it, it wouldn't be as full as mine is right now. This is a whole year's worth. But next I'm going to put up, this is when you open the app, this is what you see. And what is good for me is the top 3 are 3 that I kept active for this year from last year. I could put everything last year in an archive, so it's still there and I can go to the archives. But those 3 did not get finished, so I left them as WIPs or UFOs to think about this year. Well, I did finish one. I don't know how well you can see in the picture. There's a light mint green and gray scarf. I finished that. The one, oh, there was a third one, and as you know, I frogged it, so I took it out. And I have one more, the very first one, that's called Berry Bubblegum something or other. And I would like to finish it this year. I just have not gotten to it. And maybe if I don't get too caught up in Advents, I might finish it. But if not, I will keep it there for next year. But I'm able to scroll through this to the bottom, and I number every one as I do it, and I keep track. And I don't know if you can see that they have asterisks in front of the name. If they have an asterisk, it means I used yarn from my stash. Then I'm going to show you the next picture. You can then go into any one of those. You hit the icon and you go into a screen and you see there something I was working on, because I see a start date, and that's all the details of that pattern, the start date, the hook, you can put the yarn you used and everything else. But if you see there, it says pattern files, and it says that there is no pattern information. But if you click on the plus to the far right, it'll bring in options of files that you can insert into this. And if it is a Ravelry pattern, I usually click that, and then it will download the pattern in there, not that I need the pattern there, and it will click the pictures from the pattern, so I know what the designers look like, and my pictures that are in Ravelry, whatever. But it's just a feature that you can use. It's just what I use, but that doesn't mean everybody has to use this. But what I like about it is I number them as I go. I see how many I did over the year. I have a way to indicate if it used stash or not, because as you know, I do a stash down every month. And at the end of the year, everything that's finished, I can put into the archives, and I will have left the ones that are unfinished for the year. And they're there as kind of a little bit of a prod next year to work on them. And if I don't work on them, I look at them and reassess, do I want to do them or not? And right now I know I have the one from last year I still want to do. And I have two that I started earlier this year that I put aside, and I'll have to make a decision. Do I want to make them or not? And they'll be there for me to consider throughout the year. They'll always be at the top. So that's what I use. I was asked, I thought I would show you that. All right, now we have just enough time for one more thing. It's very dry in here today. The other thing is I have one more yarn acquisition that came from EFA. I have a yarn acquisition in the mail from them. It hasn't arrived yet, and who knows when that'll arrive, because it'll be in the big heap waiting for the strike to end. And I will tell you that I made a Black Friday order from EFA. If you haven't done it yet, it's 30% off from now until, I think it was the 1st of December. So some of this I made with a purpose in mind. Some of it I ordered because I really wanted to see it was a new base. So I'm going to start with these two. And these are Sincere Sock. I have lots of Sincere Sock. These are white. They call them chalk, just because I really wanted to have some white. I have plenty of color, but I got thinking maybe in this blanket I might want to go around them with white as my main color. So neutral to go with them. So I got these two. Sincere Sock is, sorry for that interruption. So I was talking about Sincere Sock, and it is 75% merino, 25% nylon. It has 400 meters or 437 yards, and it feels average, like most merino nylon sock blends. So that was one thing I ordered. And then I ordered an Oopsie, and I got two of them as well because, again, Sincere Sock and Oopsie meant it was on sale, and it's a gray. And again, gray is a good neutral. Now this is tonal. That doesn't bother me. The same specs as the last one, and it'll be something good as a neutral as well. Then the next thing I ordered did not turn out to be what I thought it was. I thought I was ordering a very, very dark navy, because you remember I got this beautiful blue, almost navy, kid mohair, kid silk, that I want to use with a navy. And I had a yarn I could use it with, but it's a really, really nice feeling yarn. And I thought, well, I should use it on its own. And I need to put this with a plain yarn. So I ordered this, again, Sincere Sock, since it's just average. And I could put it with this. Well, it turns out that it isn't navy like I thought. It's called Illyrian Wings, and it's Sincere Sock, same spec as the last two that you saw, and it's not black either. It's black with a little bit of gray in it. There are places where it has blue in it. So I guess I can use it as a black in the right projects next year, because remember I said we're going to need black. So, I mean, black and gray will not go unused. It's just that I thought I was getting a very dark blue with hints of lighter blue in it, the way it looked online. My mistake, but it's useful. And finally, I have a yarn that is new. I'm dropping it here. It's a fairly new base, and I wanted to try it out, so I got a few of the colors that I like. And it's called All Good Things Fingering. All Good Things Fingering. Now, this color is What If You Fly. She's got unusual colors. But let me tell you about the base. It's 75% bamboo viscose. It's 15% merino, fine merino wool. So those with a wool problem can't use it, I guess. I don't know if sometimes it has just a teeny bit of wool if you're okay, or if it's still a problem. And finally, 10% lyocell, and that is a natural product. So there are 400 meters, 437 yards, and I have to say it feels very nice, and it has that shine that comes with a bamboo product. 75% bamboo. Now that has a bluey green tinge on the screen. This is definitely green, darker green, like I would call it a forest green, evergreen. It's a nice green. And then I got two more in different colors. This one's called Kindness Matters. I think the color is pretty close. A periwinkle blue, maybe. They feel very nice. And finally, and I don't know why I think in the order that's coming, I might have more of these coming. And finally, I got this color, which is called Happy Thoughts. That looks pretty close. Maybe a shade lighter than it really is, but I thought these would be nice together. They do feel nice. So I just wanted to tell you about them. Yeah, they're feeling good. And that's my acquisition from EFA. Now, like I said, I made a Black Friday purchase, meant to send them to my brother because then I would save a fair bit on shipping. But I went and processed the thing without even thinking. So they are coming to me, and you know that they'll, one of the items is on pre-order, and it won't be ready until almost Christmas, so it won't get sent till very close to Christmas. Maybe the strike will be over by then, and it'll come straight through. Otherwise, I'll have 2 packages from EFA that'll sit in the pile for a long time. Oh wow, I won't be ordering another thing from the US until this strike is totally over. And I just hope everything that I do have coming gets here safely. So that's all we have for today. And I'm reminding you that we will have our special episode on Sunday with the slideshow of all of your items for November and the reveal of the bird for December. And at that time, I am going to tell you how I'm going to do something just a wee bit different. Not much, but a wee bit. So until Sunday, a few days from now, and then our Advent season, I want to wish you all a happy hooking.